Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our September 23rd council meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Mr. Oja?
Here.
Mr. Menegini?
Here.
Dr. Hayes?
Here.
Mr. Gottstein?
Here.
Mr. Babalani?
Here.
Approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of September 9th, 2013. Any additions or corrections?
I'd like to correct the spelling of the citizen comment, third person. With that correction, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Support.
Motion made by Dr. Hayes, supported by Mark. Roll call.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Babalani?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes. Approval manifest 2013-18 in the amount of $433,054.52. Mark.
I got a couple, Jeremy. The first page here, under the mayor-elected council, Mary, under the labor negotiations, the final bill was $721.50. I'd like to get a total before our next meeting on what we spent for that with the attorney. About halfway down, the metering billing best practice works. What would that be, Ray? WPPI workshop?
That's a workshop that WPPI is putting on for like billing and meter reading. It's a working group type of program. I gave the information to Mary, and she would like to put a couple people from our office in that program. It's going to be in Florence.
Okay.
With that, we're not using their billing programs, are we? We're still using the BSNA? Yes, that's correct.
And then just down on the same paragraph there, the postage meter, Mary, would it be feasible if we just bought one of them things, or can we buy one of them things? $150, I see it come through, it's a rental.
I haven't checked in a while, Mark. I can check into it, but the last time we checked, you couldn't buy it. You had to buy it. But let me check into it again. We haven't checked for a couple years.
Okay. I got a couple more here, Jeremy, quick ones. Page 3. Up on the top, under the downtown development, I see Trico was doing some weeding for $250. I don't know if that was for a month or what that was, but I was kind of disappointed. You know, we got the summer students watering, and we got 2 people on the water vehicle there, and one is sitting on the bench and the other one's watering. I don't understand why we're paying somebody to weed when we got somebody sitting there watching. And the same with the painting of the lines. The lines look good downtown. The summer students were painting. While the paint was drying, they could have been picking the weeds and saved us some money right here because they were right on the corners. I think there's poor supervision or lack of supervision in that area. Ray, in that same line there, the facade program, is that $2,300 for Mountain Engineering? Is that program going to be for all the businesses? Is that what that is for the Main Street, like it came through a couple years ago?
It was available for all the businesses. We had put out a notice to all the businesses who wanted to participate, and we only received 4 responses.
Is that still open?
Yeah, it's still open.
Is there?
Are you sure all the business got that? Because
That's what I was informed, that all the businesses got
I
it.
never got any notification of that.
Okay.
Okay.
There was supposed to be a flyer that went out that went to all the businesses.
Did it go to the businesses or did it go to the owners of the building?
Probably the businesses. Usually what ends up happening is we hand deliver those.
Okay.
So I mean, if you're still interested, where we're at with it right now is that the DDA agreed to, if you agreed to pay $100 towards a sketch and a budget for a project, basically go through a project. Mountain Engineering would put together a plan that then we can use in a proposal that we put in for a grant application.
I just want to make sure that everybody downtown got that, because I'm sure if
I
I
can
didn't
ask,
get it-
I'll ask the question, but according to, Barb and Terry, they put those things out.
Okay.
Is there a cap on that program, just
No.
so the people watching?
No, there's no cap, but you have to be in the downtown.
Oh, I realize that, but if
Yeah.
you're on the main street, there's
Right,
no
and then
cap
you're
on it.
certain, and what might have stopped some businesses from doing it is that there's only specific types of renovations that can be done. So in that memo, we showed what types of renovations could be done.
Is that like a 50%?
50% match.
Okay, okay. Down a little bit further on that same page, under the capital projects, Coleman Engineering, we got one bill for $286, one for $993, and one for $483. We had to get engineering for the crack sealing?
Those are the contract documents. We're
Okay.
putting together the documents for it, not the
Okay.
actual engineering for it.
Okay. And then, what was, down a little bit further, Ray, the Railroad Avenue Improvement Project, I thought there was a cap on that, like 25,000. There was one bill for 16,800 and one bill for 12,000.
I'll get you the numbers on those, but it's more than that.
It's more than
The
that?
whole project is like $700,000.
But that was, it just says Railroad Avenue, I know.
Right, I'll get you the breakdown again on that project, because there's a series on how you have to break that project down because of the federal aid funding. And engineering, because it's an MDOT type project, engineering is actually higher on that type of project because of the paperwork involved and the reporting and the bidding than it is on some of the others.
So
that's-
it wasn't-
that's
Isn't
what-
this though for the upcoming railroad project? Not-
Correct.
So it's the project we haven't done yet.
Okay,
It's next year's project.
Right,
Okay.
right, okay, yeah, we had the project last year that was it wasn't
Just on
really
the
the
end.
Railroad Avenue,
yeah.
it was the
Yeah,
streetscape.
just on the end, that's what I was thinking we were
No,
paying.
this is for the upcoming next year's project on Railroad Avenue,
Okay,
yeah.
okay, that sounds better yet.
But I'll put a breakdown so that you can see again what those numbers are.
Yeah, because, I mean, they only did probably 75 feet. I just thought it was kind of crazy if that was for that project. On the next page, Ray, the CCI, FCC Proof of Performance Testing, $3,400. Is that an annual?
Yeah, I believe that
Yes, it is. It's annual.
annual,
Yes.
Yeah, that was brought to council and approved, Mark.
Okay. And then I got, I think, one or two more here. On the next page, Ray, under the electric, right in the center, we got about $3,000 worth of new employee pants and overalls. Do we buy pants and overalls for the crews?
we have in our contract for flame retardant, the first pair, and then after that, there's a provision for the employee to pick up, if it's standard wear and tear, or if they damage them themselves, or, there's ways that the employee then picks up costs.
So it's a special,
It's a special deal, it's a flame retardant cloth, is that correct?
70-30 split
70/30.
after the first set that we furnished. Then
Yeah.
it's a 70-30 split, 70% city, 30% employee.
And because it's a specialty item, it's flame retardant
Okay.
clothing that they have to have.
Okay. That's all I got.
Okay, Chris?
I have one under electric. The clutch for the wood chipper. Was that the new one we just purchased?
Yes, the new used one that we purchased. Yeah. And you'll see it several times on the manifest.
Okay.
The total cost of the clutch was $761, but it was split up amongst electric, DPW, and water department.
And how long have we had that now? Just a year?
I think it's been a little more than a year, but not a lot more,
Okay.
about a year, 2 seasons.
And there wasn't that much use on it prior to, or?
We've been using it a lot.
And prior to us buying
Oh,
it?
prior to us buying it?
I mean, is this gonna be an issue? We're gonna be replacing this clutch every 2 years?
I hope not, but, you know, I mean, I really don't know how to answer that. If it goes bad, we have to replace
Sure.
it. You know.
That's all I have.
Dr. Hayes?
No question.
Lee?
A couple have been asked and answered, and I got a few more here. Page 7, wastewater, fourth from the bottom, professional services, Coleman Engineering for 1420, subsurface drilling WWTP road project, is that what that is? RD project, what's,
Rural development.
Road development,
oh, rural development, okay. So where is the subsurface drilling being done?
They had to run test probes to find out where how far down the shelf was, the rock. Because we're gonna be working on, the Headworks project and
This is all down at the
Waste
plant?
plant,
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Okay, and then on page 1, mayor, council elections, professional services, carpentry unlimited, removal garbage debris, Pex Alley, $2,500. Did we
that's gonna be charged
charge
back.
to them?
Correct.
Okay, I'm assuming, because I didn't see that come through on the complaint list. Farther down, buildings and grounds, sprinkler deficiency repairs for $920.
We had to fix our sprinkler system under it's required under code to have an annual inspection. And there's a temperature rating, glycol rating within the system, and it had been discharged. It had been a number of years since we basically hadn't had it tested, and we found out about that we, had to get this tested every year. And then under the testing, they had to make some repairs. So I think because the glycol charge was low, some of the lines that ran up into the attic froze. And so then there was some damage in one of the heads out here in the lobby. So they had to do some repairs.
Okay, that's all I have.
Most of mine have been answered already, too. The one that I have left is that's on page 2 and later on. It's the tower space rental fee under the police department. Isn't that significantly higher than it's been in the past?
That's, isn't that because we are getting one fee now and then redistributing it?
Well, it's listed 3 times. That
That's
amount.
1/3.
Oh, that's 1/3? It should be $120 higher than what
Right.
we had in the past.
I think that was the entire charge in the past, wasn't it?
I believe, because it's now with a different company, but I believe before it was $1,800, we
Oh.
split it 3 ways.
Right.
Okay, I thought it was less than that.
It is higher. I'm pretty sure it was $1,800 before, was the total.
Okay. With that, is there anything we can do with looking at, like, using our tower to move that stuff over to, rather than having it on the fire tower and paying a rent on it?
I can ask the question. I don't,
I mean, what our tower work, is it in the right spot, is it high enough?
yeah, that's the question, is it gonna be okay? Because it's North Alert, the fire, and the police.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but it's one set of equipment, because.
yeah, it's one set.
Okay. That was my only question. Does anyone from the audience have any questions on the manifest? If you do, please come up to the podium.
Jean Bradford, 2465 Travis Farm Road. I just have a question in regards to the taxes. On the manifest of 9/6, it looks like we paid the school taxes and whatever. Now there's penalties on this. Why do those penalties occur?
The due date on the taxes was August 15th, so anything we've collected after that date has a penalty on it, and then we share the penalty with the other taxing units. So these are collections that were made after the due date.
And that is a common occurrence then?
Yeah, we keep collecting them all the way through the end of February, and then we have to pay them out to the taxing units.
Okay, well, that was it then. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions on the manifest? Okay, looking for a motion.
I make a motion, we approve manifest 2013-18 in the amount of 5452.
Second. Motion made by Mark, supported by Chris. Roll call.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Babalani?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Okay, does anyone from the audience wish to address the council on the minutes manifest or any agenda item? If you do, please come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record. You'll have 5 minutes. If not, there's a time for comment on any subject at the end of the meeting. Okay, I don't see any there. We need a motion to go into public hearing because we have 2 public hearings this evening.
I'll make a motion, we go into public hearing.
Support.
Motion made by Lee, supported by Dr. Hayes. Roll call.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Babalani?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
The first public hearing this evening is regarding the application for an industrial facilities exemption certificate under the Public Act 328 for Loadmaster Corporation. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As I see in my packet, I provided you an application that was submitted by Loadmaster a few months ago requesting consideration for personal property tax abatement. The city, if you remember, in the 1990s, the city moved forward with creating an industrial development district in our industrial area, which allowed the city of Norway to offer personal property tax abatement under Public Act 328 and private, real property tax abatement under Public Act 198. The request tonight is for personal property tax under 328. The application was sent to the DDA because the DDA is really the entity that will lose the monies from any increased tax that comes from this particular facility. So we went through the application at their meeting a month and a half ago, and the DDA, after reviewing the application from Loadmaster, approved moving forward to council with a recommendation to approve their request. Also, if you remember, a couple of years ago, we put together a new process which actually had a grading system within the application to allow for us to analyze how many years it should be allowed in the abatement. Under real property, under 198, there's a maximum of 12 years per law. Under personal property, though, there is no maximum, and it's probably because our personal property depreciates, and so there's ultimately an end to personal property tax anyway. But in our application, and when they filled out the system, the grading system, it came out to 6 years. So that was the recommendation from the DDA, is to move forward and give them abatement for 6 years. I can entertain any questions you have at this time. There's no specific equipment that's being identified for abatement. This is a general abatement for the 6-year period, which is how the law is actually written.
So this will cover any equipment they purchase within that time?
Yes, any equipment they purchase within that time and for that time. Also, next year, under the new law that was passed during Lansing's lame duck session in last December, personal property tax is actually going to go up for a vote in August of 2014. If the vote is approved by the Michigan voters, which is actually, the vote will be for an increase in sales tax to offset the personal property tax that's being eliminated. If that is approved, then personal property tax as a whole is going away. If not, then it'll go back to its original plan or original law, and that's why they're recommending all the businesses that to move forward if they've had planned on making application for PPT, industrial facility exemption certificates, to do it anyway. So,
Just out of curiosity, Ray, I think I know the figure, but I'm not sure. You had mentioned it once before. Personal property tax as now for the city of Norway, what is the revenue value of it?
Mary, what is the total revenue right now off of our PPT? I know the percentage is pretty small.
Yeah, it is. I don't remember what it was. We calculated it at one time, but I don't
but if this voter approval thing goes through, that's gonna disappear anyway.
Yeah, it was less than 5%, I think.
Yeah, it's a small percentage.
For the city of Norway, I mean, there's some communities that it's over 50% of their tax revenue. So, I mean, this is a big issue for some communities.
Could you have those figures for the next meeting, Mary?
Yeah, we can do that. Now, remember that all new personal property tax in this district goes to the DDA. It does not go to the city because of the way that TIFA is structured.
Ray, that personal property tax is tied with hiring of new employees, correct?
It's actually, they estimated, in our application, it does talk about hiring. It gives you a grading. So they estimated new employees, and they also estimated value of investment. But under this, it's a little more unusual because there's not a specific piece of equipment that they're saying they're buying, which is common now in the applications. But what they're doing is they're estimating it out of what they're going to be purchasing.
Is there anybody that does the follow-up to make sure that they did add positions?
We do talk to them. Yeah, the city hall, I talked to Dave, I talked to Kaiser, when they go through those programs, and then if there's any state monies involved, which the last couple that we've had state monies, they actually do an audit.
Okay. Is there anybody else that takes part besides Kaiser? I mean, did Multicolor ever take part in anything like that?
We've talked to Multicolor a number of times about applying for abatements. They haven't filed an application. Now, Milwaukee Broach did, and that's how we have them come to the community.
Yeah.
So we really have Broach, we have Kaiser, and we have Loadmaster. That's taking advantage of it.
Does any council have any other questions or comments? Does anyone from the public have any questions or comments? Does anyone from the public have any questions or comments? Okay, does anyone from the public have any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move into the next public hearing. And that is the vacate right-of-way 13th Avenue between Brown Street and Hillcrest Street, just north of Lot 7, and the alleys in Block 7 of Plat of Village of Norway. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've given you a full report on the alleys and the location, given an aerial of the layout, along with the plat survey of that area. And in essence, it's all within that bowl. You've got hillside all around it. You got this area just to the west of Butcher Hill as you're going up the hill, Hillcrest Drive. And we looked at those alleys from this request and the street, and actually 13th Avenue. And if you take a look, 13th Avenue at the top of the hill stops with a drop off. It's a dead end. On the plat map, it goes straight. So it's down in the hollow, and there's really no access to it. So the property owner, they purchased city property right at that corner, and they're requesting this vacating so that they could, and one thing is they wanted to do is utilize this to meet their setbacks in order to be able to place a home back in that area. Also, there's no, we keep all utility easements within these areas, so there's no access back in there anyway. So it's our recommendation that we move forward and vacate these right-of-ways.
Would they all go to the same property owner, or is this gonna
No,
be
there's actually one property owner to the south that will benefit from this vacating.
And we're doing this because we want, the person who bought the city property needs it for.
Yeah, yes, for their project, and whoever else builds in that area would need this. We don't need, there's another property that there was some concern on Brown Street as to whether they'd have access. Because of the way that this is laid out, they will have access, so we're in pretty good shape there.
And the city would never have any reason to want to extend the alleys, or?
No, not extending the alleys. Those should be used for the person developing in that area.
Okay.
As you
Is
look
there
at-
any cost that's associated with that, or does Jay's office take care of all of the
Between-
paperwork that we need to get?
Between our office and Jay's office, it takes care of it. We've It's all platted, so there's no survey work involved. It's easy for deed work. We just need to send it into the state and to the Register of Deeds, so we're in pretty good shape. It's pretty easy process in this case.
So any of the council have any other questions on it?
And if we were to vacate this and they wanted the alley developed, we'd have to develop it, so basically it could save us money.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from council? Is there any questions or comments from the public? Any questions or comments from the public? Any questions or comments? Okay. Okay.
When you donate this land to these two individuals, is their property reassessed for tax purposes?
This would be added to the tax rolls.
So those individuals will be, their property will be reassessed?
Correct. It's added, there's a calculation that they use for figuring out the tax, and it's based on the acreage of property that you have, so it'll be added to that acreage and then recalculated.
So approximately how much,
Don't know, I can look it up, but,
I mean, land that they're gaining?
I mean, it's a 20-foot wide alley by, you know, I mean, we'd have to, I haven't calculated that up, I'm sorry.
Okay, thanks.
What happens if the one on the other side doesn't want it, because if it's a useless piece of property, then it goes to the other one, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you don't want your half, it can
Yeah.
go to the other person.
Is there any other questions or comments from the public? Is there any other questions or comments from the public? Is there any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I'm looking for a motion to close public hearing, go back into regular session.
I'll make a motion, we close public hearing and go back into regular session.
Motion made by Lee, supported by Dr. Hayes. Roll call.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Babalani?
Yes.
Before we get into the meat of our meeting this evening, we have one appointment and some presentations. This is for the MML liability and property pool. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an annual housekeeping item that we have with our insurance carrier, the MML Liability and Property Pool. Every year they have board of director seats that come due, and there are different amounts of seats available each year depending on how they're structured. But this year there are 3 seats available. They have 3 incumbent directors that would seeking re-election, and the nominating committee that's put together has recommended that the 3 individuals be approved by the members, so that's what's in front of you tonight.
Okay, is there any questions on that? If not, I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the 3 candidates proposed by the MML's nominating committee.
Support.
Motion made by Chris, supported by Mark. Roll call.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Babalani?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes. Okay, in our communications this evening, we have 7 items. The first item is Resolution 2013-28, the vacate of right-of-way 13th Avenue between Brown Street and Hillcrest Street, just north of Lot 7 and the alleys in Block 7, the plat of the Village of Norway. We just had our public hearing on this. If there's any other questions or comments, I'm welcome to take them now. Otherwise, I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion that resolution 2013-28 be approved.
Support.
Motion made by Lee, supported by Dr. Hayes. Roll call.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Babalani?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Next, Resolution 2013-29, Industrial Facilities Exemption Certificate, Loadmaster Corporation. Again, we just had a public hearing on this. I'm looking for if there's any other questions, comments, concerns, or discussion. Otherwise, I'm looking for a motion.
I make a motion, we approve resolution 2013-29 for the Loadmaster Corporation.
Second.
Motion made by Mark, supported by Chris. Roll call.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Babalani?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Okay, next on the agenda, approval zoning ordinance, amendment to the zoning districts, rezoning petition filed by Ron Milbrath representing Danielson's Greenhouse. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A petition was filed for a rezoning request from Mr. Milbrath and representing Danielson Greenhouse. The public hearing was held by the Planning Commission to review the standards based on accepting or denying a rezoning. The particular property is identified within your packet. Again, I gave you aerials and its property information. I also gave you the finding of fact report from the Planning Commission meeting. In a nutshell, we did hear some dissent at the meeting, but the Planning Commission, they listened to the dissent and they approved their resolution to move to council for rezoning of this, or recommending a rezoning of this property. It is going from an R1 residential to a B3 business. This particular, the use that we reviewed is, and the reason they selected that B3 business is that is what is designated for the greenhouse activity, and that is what the property would be used for. Also, this property is directly adjacent to the current use and would be used as such. I can entertain any questions on this issue, and I believe Ron is here, so if you have any questions. The responsibility at this point is that, or from a housekeeping standpoint, that this is an ordinance revision. The map is just like the ordinance text. It's part of the ordinance, and so it would take a vote of the council and the township board to make the change, and then it goes and gets published in the paper and would take 15 days from publication. I believe the township board already approved that. Did they have their meeting? Township board approved? Yes. Yes, so because we had a delay with the Labor Day holiday, we're actually behind the township board in their activities now, so just for this month.
Curiosity, Ray, what are restrictions on B3, or what are the qualifications to be a B3?
Well, B3 is typically a business activity, retail, business type activity, commercial, that deals in a little more, land use than, you have your B1, which is your main corridor downtown, which really has no setback at all. And then you have B2, which is, you've got some setback, but it has limited space. B3 is more like you're getting out along a highway. You have a little more room, but it is geared towards commercial, retail type establishments. It is the one area, because greenhouses use a lot more space, that's why B3 is designated for permitted use.
Greenhouse was a permitted use for a B3.
Mm-hmm. And I'm assuming it's just gonna be like trees there, and put them there and take them back out?
Any other?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to get it rezoned. Was there any letters sent out, Trish, and any response from the zoning part of it?
Yeah,
Two
there's two
objections?
attached. He had two objections
Oh, I
and they're
didn't see them.
attached.
Okay. How many were sent out, do you know?
It's in here too.
It's like 13. I think there was like,
4 letters were mailed to property
I
owners.
think we received 13 back, didn't we?
14 letters were returned.
14, yeah.
Okay,
That number was in my head.
300 feet, is that what that is?
Yeah.
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 The only concern that I have is, I think we're opening a can of worms. I think we should rezone it, but the water lines that go under the alley, I think that's really gonna be a problem for us, because about 10 years, or not even 10 years ago, we had Stanley Antanasoff down here that wanted to push some lines underneath by Sitco for that property that he put in, and I got some concerns, because I would be willing to bet money he's gonna be down here next. So I think we need to keep that in our thoughts.
Are there water lines running underneath the city property?
Not in this section. I think what you're referring to, Mark, is in the alley. We have
Across the alley, underneath the alley.
Yeah, in the alley. And that's actually still an alley. We haven't vacated or anything on that alley.
But what I'm saying,
No, that's the concern, is that there's private
Oh.
water lines running underneath the city alley, which follows kind of in line to the discussion we had last week, or last meeting on the lake pumps running underneath the city property.
Yeah, I got no problem rezoning it. I think it should be rezoned, but I think we're opening a can of worms with
I think
Citgo.
you've got that going on now. I mean,
With
you have your
Citgo,
lines.
There's one water line that runs across those sewer pipe. It was there before they put the sewer pipes in. We put it on top and it's a black plastic line. We shut it off every night.
But I mean, is there a line that runs under the alley over to the other
That
side?
one runs under the alley on top of the sewer pipes. There's storm drain on there. The rest of them might come out of the creek to water the nursery.
Yeah, that's where I think that we may have a gray area if Antanasoff comes down here, because you have lines running under the alley, and I know a couple other people that were interested in under the alley, and I just think we need to be careful with that.
So you're watering out of the creek right now?
I can't hear you.
You're watering out of the creek right now?
The nursery's watered out of the creek. The greenhouses are watered from the city water.
Isn't that crossing?
Yeah, we haven't had a chance to talk to Mr. Milbrath about our meeting last week, but when he ran those lines, the city didn't own that property. So I didn't get a legal opinion on that yet.
Okay. I mean, is there any discussion about abandoning that alley by him?
There is, but I think you're going to get some resistance from in-house and from some of the people in the area. How much use do you get from people coming through that alley?
I can't hear you.
Yeah, please.
How much use? I think you get people that come down through that alley, don't they?
Hardly ever.
Yeah.
Most of them that don't go on the highway, they're a huge pile of brush. And when that gets moved, they're not gonna do that. Other than that, there's nobody goes down there.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard from a few people, but that's, you know, in-house, there's some concerns, and then there's a few just from in the neighborhood probably, but I mean, that's, like I said, they could go around. I mean, there's no
Yeah.
reason they couldn't go around.
But I mean, I don't have a problem with the zoning, but I think we need to be careful with that, and if abandoning the alley, if there's no problem with it from anybody, I think that's the best way to go.
Yeah. We would
And I
maintain all
think
the
that-
easement, all our utility
Yeah,
easements.
I
would
can't
be
build
maintained.
anything on it anyway. I built it, Mark, that used to be a garden.
But I mean,
When I bought the greenhouse, I
that's what
built
I'm
it
just
up, so I'd
trying to.
have a road back there, and then you guys took it over as an alley. It was always an alley, but it wasn't developed. See?
Well, I think I'm for the rezoning, but I think we need to do something with the lines that go under the alley if we're not gonna abandon it. If that doesn't take place down the road, because we're opening a can of worms with Citgo.
I don't disagree with that, I mean, at all, but, you know, the question would be whether or not we should we should just vacate it. I mean, that really is, and there was a license agreement made out in '98, I think you did that with Mark Isaacson.
Right.
Which, it was a one-time agreement, but that one actually should have been just vacated, you know, when you really look at it, I mean, all of your greenhouses are on top of it, I mean, it's not going backwards, so.
I mean, can we put something in there that if, we're rezoning that, but, if the alley's not vacated, and I'd like to see Ron step forward and try to get that vacated.
Well, I'll go through whatever you guys want.
And,
That's-
I
but
don't
I
think
mean,
he's
I do
not
think we
against
need to
that.
get them out of there if we can't get it vacated. But
I don't-
I think you should try to get it vacated.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think Ron is against, I mean, you and I've had that conversation a couple times.
Yeah.
There's some resistance in-house with some of our staff that are concerned if we vacate it, but, I mean, we withhold the utility easements.
Yeah.
and we can.
It would stay just like it is, only I'd be responsible for it. And I plow it anyway. So,
We can work that out. That's
okay.
Really not that big.
Okay.
Yeah, well, for me,
Anything?
actually, having that water line run across the city property is, because I'm not for any of that kind of use. For me, that is a big issue.
Anything else, gentlemen?
Anything else, is there anything you'd like to add, Ron? Anything you'd like to add?
No, it's 100 feet that I bought. The rest of it, we've been using stuff back there for 30 years. I need a little bit more land, and it was supposed to be 200 feet, and it turned out he didn't own 200 feet, so I ended up buying the 100 feet he had. It's 100 by 200 long or something like that. I just need more room for trees, and that's what we put back there.
I guess I would just like to see a step forward and try to get it vacated if
We
you
can
can
work
work
that
something
out.
out with Ray, but if you can't, then I would like to see the lines taken out from underneath of it, so we don't have a problem.
Oh, if we don't vacate it.
If we can't get it
think
vacated,
we'll-
I think that
I
those
think we
lines,
just get together and we'll put together
Sure,
a
sure.
request and get it done.
You know, I tried to put a well,
That's a more reasonable thing to do.
I tried to put a well in there. I got down 400 feet, they got 100 gallons a minute, and it's salt water. It's 100 times more sodium chloride than the city. So I can't grow anything in it, you know? $4,000 well.
One other little thing here on the last page, I assume this is a glitch. Accordingly, by vote of 7-7, the Norway Planning Commission recommends, the proposal, should that be 7-0?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Just so you know, I did the typing on that.
I wasn't pointing fingers.
Oh, you did?
Ray, would something need to be put in the motion to get those lines taken out? If it's rezoned, if it's not abandoned or not?
I would,
No?
Yeah, I don't think I'd recommend that on a rezoning, and
Okay.
we'll get that taken care of and get it back to you here shortly. Maybe, probably at the next meeting, we can have the first step, which is to get it posted in the paper. That's the easiest part, we just get it posted, and then any of the other details will get worked out.
Okay. Is there any other comments? Does anyone from the public have any comments? Okay, with that, I'm looking for a motion.
I make a motion, we approve the rezoning for Danielson Greenhouse and Ron Milbreth.
Second.
Motion made by Mark, supported by Chris. Roll call.
Mr. Babalani?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Next, we have approval of the city-owned property, 39.56 acres in Wisconsin, to the Wisconsin DNR. Mr. Anderson.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Gave you pretty much all the paperwork I have at this point. A recital and a proposal from the Wisconsin DNR for a purchase of 40 acres of property that the city owns over in Wisconsin near the Piers Gorge. We have for a number of years have been looking at our options to try and sell this piece of property. It's a landlocked piece of property on the river, but its river access it's up high on a bluff. We've had it appraised. We've had different looks at it, to what to do with it. And this past year, I finally said, well, and we did, as part of our hydro license, our FERC license, we need to submit a letter of request to the FERC in order to sell any property within the boundaries. With that being said, this past spring, I had, working with Mead and Hunt, I put together a letter that we sent out to the agencies informing them of our interest in trying to sell the property. We did receive a response from the Wisconsin DNR, and I think it's because of their interest or their purchase of property from We Energies for the Piers Gorge nature area. They looked at this 40 acres and they asked us if we'd consider selling it to them. We spent pretty much all summer and early, into August and first part of September, where they put together some appraisals, and then they submitted the letter, transaction letter, to the city requesting purchase for $63,000. I can tell you that under our appraisals, because it's landlocked, because there's no access, because of some of the issues that we have with the property, I think this is a pretty fair deal. Talked with Jim Wiseman, and he felt in looking at other properties the same way. We did talk with some other appraisal real estate people, and again, they reiterated the fact that this is a pretty good offer from the DNR. One thing we do still have to do is get an approval from FERC to remove it from the boundary and allow the sale. But I think that because this is a DNR and their interest in the property is to add it to the Piers Nature Area, that this is a pretty well-established process that they'll allow this. We also have to go through SHPO and Fish and Wildlife and some of the other agencies to finalize this.
Well, I know in the past, the DNR objections have been a big reason why FERC wouldn't let us take it out of the license. So since the DNR is the one who wants to buy it.
Yeah, this is on the Wisconsin side. On the Michigan side, you know, we submitted a request to FERC and to the agencies, informing them of our interest to sell. There's about 4 acres left on the Michigan side. We haven't heard a word from the Michigan DNR. Last time we did this, they gave us a really negative letter, and without any kind of response, we're not going to get anywhere with FERC. So, you know, we still have work to do, you know, with the Michigan side.
Do the Michigan and the Wisconsin DNR work kind of together? I know they're totally different, but do they work together? So I mean, if we said, hey, you got to help us get the other one out of there if you want this one?
For the wildlife area, they do, because they're doing a joint management on both sides of the river for the Piers Gorge wildlife area, that whole strip that they're doing. So that's actually a good sign on this one, where the Michigan one may sign off on it, because it's going into that, and they are working together on that whole area.
Yeah, I haven't really, I wanted to get this one done and in the books, and then I would concentrate on working on the Michigan side. Remember, we also have 11 acres down by the Hydro Crosser Road. No response on that yet. The Wisconsin DNR did ask us about the 400 acres that we have on the opposite side of the river down by the hydro, and they're interested on that as well. But it's not within their current planning boundaries, and they're going to work this year on expanding those boundaries to include it. So then maybe in a year they'll come back and put in a request for us to consider that as well. So in looking at it, I mean, we don't, you know, the DNR is going to manage the land the same as we are. You know, public access, and they'll do probably a better job than we do, and we just basically spend money, you know, managing it. So I think this is a great opportunity for us to.
Do they have some way to access it?
Well, they own up We Energy side, so they would be able to access it from the northwest, downriver.
Yeah, northwest.
Upriver, I guess. Is
I
what they would
thought we owned 80 acres there.
No, we only own 39 and whatever, 5.
Isn't that the 40 next to Gelmeyer?
Yeah.
Well, I
Yeah,
thought there
we
was
own
80
40.
acres there.
No, it's a small 40, and it's actually because of.
Correction.
And there are roadways that come through the We Energy's Verso side, so that's how they make the connection.
I don't think we've said yet, but just for the public, this is 39.56 acres that they're offering to buy for $63,000. Okay.
I just think it would be advantageous, Reyes, if we could tell them that we need that other property taken out and, you know, out of the FERC license also, and maybe they can help put some pressure on it.
The conversations I've had, Mark, have been very positive with Wisconsin. However, my dealings and my feelings is that it's kind of a toss of a coin as to whether Wisconsin and Michigan will work together. I mean, they had, you know, when you looked at something like working on the bridge, and they had all sorts of trouble between the MDOTs, not only here, but down in Marinette, Menominee, they had problems. Like Jeremy said, in some parts of the DNR, they work well, in other parts, they struggle. So, you know, I don't know how patient they would be if we put ultimatums like, you know, Michigan, but I think without an ultimatum, they would help us. I mean, the people I've dealt with so far, they're, you know, they want to make this happen, but, you know, they don't want to go to somebody and say, you know, they'll sell it to us, but I don't think they want to go to their superiors, but they will turn around and make phone calls on our behalf, and I think that would be helpful.
Just so we know before we get into it, if we do sell it, any of the selling costs, closing costs, any of that stuff, Who's gonna be handling that? Who's gonna be covering that?
Well, the main cost for us will be dealing with the FERC, and that would have
That
to
would be
come out
us.
of ours, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What does that cost? Rough guesstimate, any idea?
Rough estimate, it could be as high as $5,000-6,000. By the
So
time
it's
all
under
said and done.
63.
Well, when we're all said and done, it'll be used out of that, yeah.
Okay.
But,
If we did sell this, would this money then go back in to repay for the FUMI money? Come into the for to repay for
Well,
that purchase?
that's up to the council, but my recommendation is that it does go back into the general fund. Going back into the general fund would help repay for the monies used for the purchase by the golf course.
Right.
That money, once it gets in the general fund, could be used for the Parks and Rec program. I think that was mentioned earlier. But at that point, it could be directed to whatever use you guys want it for.
Well, that's where I would like to see it go into Park and Recs.
I think it should be put towards developing the property out behind the golf course so we can get some money back on it. But we can cross that bridge later, I guess.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, let's get it sold first.
yeah. Okay, is there any other questions or comments? Everything
Seems
looking
like it's
okay?
all
on that?
undervalued to me, 63,000 for 40 on the river seems low on the price, but I don't think we're gonna be able to quibble about it.
You got the big bluff there. You don't have access.
I think, one of the things we learned over the last couple of years is to come out and take a walk in it. It has a large ravines and it's split, so accessing it from one side, you can't hardly get across to the other side. It's not a flat piece of property, it is very challenging. So, you've been out there.
Yeah,
boots
I
on the
walked
ground.
it this summer with the appraiser, and it's at least 45 feet above the river at about a 40-degree angle, steep slope. There's no way you build a home, and, well, I shouldn't say no way, anything's possible. Build a staircase down. And there's some steep ravines that Ray mentioned that divide it up. It's not a real great piece of property, hard to get to.
Okay. Anything else? Otherwise, I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we sell the 39.56 acres in Wisconsin through the Wisconsin DNR at a price of $63,000, pending FERC approval.
Support.
Motion made by Lee, supported by Mark. Roll call.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menigini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Babalani?
Yes.
Next, approval component purchase to rebuild large snow blower. Mr. Anderson.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Mayor. If you remember a few meetings back, we brought to council some structural work on our large snow blower that we use for Main Street downtown and 4th Avenue. It's a blower that goes on in front of large dump trucks. At the time, we mentioned that this was the first of two bills that will be coming, the first being the structural part. This one being the equipment components. Since we're done with the structural, we need to move forward with completing our fix for this blower. Rick put together his request, and it comes out to $7,165.64. What we can tell you is that once we're done with this complete overhaul, that blower should be good for about 20 years. So I think it's a good investment.
How old is that blower now?
It's a 1985, I think.
Yeah. And the cost of a new blower is $145,000. So for basically $12,000, you're getting another 20-year lifespan out of a blower, in Rick's estimate.
Well, I plan on being here for another 20 years, so I want to make sure it lasts.
Okay.
This was in the budget. Did it come within its, but within the, what it
It's
was?
not within, it's approximately $2,000 over what we had in the budget. But Rick and I had a conversation about it, and he had also in the budget to rebuild a diesel engine in one of the trucks, and he says he can put that off till next budget cycle and use that money for the rebuild. So overall, we're not gonna be over budget, we're just shifting some monies from the engine rebuild to this.
Are these parts being shipped from
Yes,
Gwyn for $1,000?
That was my concern too.
the shipping cost.
Yeah.
I had asked, Rick told me to put $1,000 in for shipping cost.
It'd be cheaper for us to drive up there and get them.
Yeah. So, you know, I mean, if you approve it and it is cheaper, I mean, I can send Rick up to get them. That's not a problem. He's gonna save $1,000.
Yeah, I would consider that.
Yeah, I will. That's not a problem at all.
So even if you have to drive one of the dump trucks up there to haul big parts back, you
Yeah,
still
well,
could do it
this is
cheaper.
mostly bearings and sprockets and chains and all the pieces, parts that make the thing work. So.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Otherwise, I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion, we approve the purchase of parts for a cost not to exceed $7,165.64.
Support.
Do you want to include in that about the shipping cost that they're gonna
Oh,
ship?
and with the, looking into shipping options.
Yeah, write that down, so I won't forget. I'll talk to Rick about it.
The purchase
We can
would
avoid
be
the
$6,000.
shipping, we will.
The purchase, Dr. Hayes had said the purchase will be 61, 65, 64.
Okay.
I mean, even if you send somebody, though, we're gonna have costs. I don't wanna
Well.
have a problem with paying.
I don't think they're manufactured in Gwyn. I think Gwyn is where this establishment is located, and they're probably coming from other areas, so, you know, I don't know how much of that we can avoid by going to Gwyn, because it'll be shipped in from other spots, but I don't know that for a fact, so. just
I think we should have them just deliver them.
Let me check into it, and then we can figure that out. I'll do it the most reasonable way we possibly can.
So purchase price plus shipping is what,
I would approve the shipping just in case, but I'll work with Rick and.
Just
I'll work
approve the
with this
purchase price plus,
I did not,
shipping.
I personally did not talk to the
Not to
Industrial
exceed
Marketing
1,000.
Council. So I will do that and talk, specifically ask about the shipping.
How do you want to word it?
we'll approve the purchase price of $61,65.64 with shipping not to exceed $1,000.
Support.
Motion made by Chris, supported by Lee. Roll call.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
yes,
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Babalani?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes. Next, approval, fire department rescue tool. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I received a request last week from Fire Chief Chuck Anderson for purchase of this rescue tool. The tool costs $3,995. You see your letter from Mr. Anderson as well as information on the tool. So he's requesting council approval to purchase this tool.
Looking at Chuck's report, he had that it was in the budget. Was it in the budget for that amount? Or, I mean, is it covered in his budget?
I didn't look to see what he had in there, I know it was in there, he had that item in there. I'm not exactly sure what the dollar amount was.
Okay, go ahead and, if anybody else has any questions, go ahead and ask them. I'll look this up.
Is that something that the ambulance would use too? It looks like it's got a heck of a jaw on there for pinching something off.
That's usually that's the fire department's, like the jaws of life, and
Yeah, I was just wondering if, if the ambulance, if it's gonna be utilized by the ambulance, if something like that could be split, because it looks like it might be used for rescue out of a vehicle or something like that,
yeah, what
by
the,
looking at it.
I mean, we haven't asked them. They, typically, we go to the scene, get the person out or in a position where then they can work on them.
Oh, okay.
So it's the fire department that's responsible for
Okay.
all of these kinds of activities.
For equipment total for the year, they have 25,000 in their budget, but I don't know for sure how that's.
You got the individual sheet in there?
The individual sheets, he's gonna go to 971.
just a little note on that last thing that we approved. I would like to see it brought before the DDA.
Okay.
To pay for some of that snow blower because it's, the bulk of it's used on the main street.
I brought the last bill, and they did not incline to acquiesce towards that, to the, to adding to that.
They what?
They didn't want to pay for that activity. They're, what they'd like to pay for are the upgrades to the areas, but from a maintenance standpoint, they felt like that was something we should pick up.
Well, they picked up the skid steer a couple of years ago or something, a portion of it. I just thought,
Yeah, I did bring that to them, and I didn't get very far with it. I can bring it back to them and see.
okay.
Oh, he made his budget by $7. So he had budgeted 4,000.
It's a pretty impressive looking tool. I'm all for getting it. I just hope they never have to use it.
Or $5, I'm sorry. He made his budget by 5. Okay, any other questions or comments? If not, I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion that the fire department request for the purchase of a new spreader rescue tool be approved for a price not to exceed $39.95.
Support.
Motion made by Lee, supported by Mark. Roll call.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Babalani?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menigini?
Yes.
The last thing on our communications this evening is a local street project, crush and shape change order number 1. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am actually bringing this back to council. We approved at the last meeting change order number 1 for Baco for adding the additional streets to the crush and shape local paving project, and that is change order number 1. What we did not do in that change order, and they didn't ask at the time, was to change the end date, which was September 27th. After we sent the paperwork back to them for signature, I got a call and a request that we consider, would we consider adding a week to the project end date, from September 27th to October, what is that?
October 4th.
October 4th. Mainly because in case there's a rain delay this week, they would like to have an additional week. I think it's, a reasonable request for the amount of pavement that we added to the project. Also, we do have a first course down, so other than the bumps at the beginning and the end of the project, it's not, we're not left with gravel. So I believe their plan is to get in this week and do some final paving, but they weren't in today from what I could see.
I don't have a problem with them, with this, extending the date. When you talk to them, I would encourage them to get Chestnut done first, just so it's done by the school.
Okay.
But
Can do.
that's their, they can do it any order they want, but I would encourage that one, so the school area is done.
If you want to believe the weatherman, it's not supposed to rain till Saturday, so they should get it done this week.
I think it looks real good, the project that they did, and I'm glad we did the extra paving.
I had one citizen question on the one block we did on the end of Norway Street. Did we look at the subsurface at all with that? Because I guess there's been subsurface issues with being mucky and the road waving and cracking.
We didn't do an extensive subsurface
Has there
view.
been problems with that before?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. That was just a concern that had been brought to my attention.
No, not to my knowledge.
Okay.
That was one that was highly recommended to get us done, so.
Right, I remember that because it was finishing off that area. I just wanted to check on that because that concern had come forward.
Make a motion, we approve crush and shape change order number 1.
Support.
Motion made by Dr. Hayes, supported by Mark. Roll call.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Babalani?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menigini?
Yes.
Okay, that's our business for this evening, ladies and gentlemen. Does anyone have anything they'd like to address the council on any topic? If you do, please come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record. You'll have 5 minutes.
My name is Bill Morrison. I live at 215 Iron Street. I do have two questions, but they pertain to the same subject. The boulevard where the trees are, if it's a dead tree, who's in charge of it? Because like if a branch falls and hits a car, who's responsible for that? Since it's a city tree, and I know the city doesn't X them anymore because they're dead. So that's one of my questions. It's a gray area, I know.
Well, you know, when we identify a dead tree, we have a list that we get out and try and get them down. We obviously want to be the ones to take the trees down for a liability purpose. We don't obviously want any limbs fall down on anybody or anything, so.
Okay, my other question then is, who follows up on it? Because I asked in June to get mine cut down, and every time I pay my bill, I come back and ask again. And to my surprise, when I went to pay my bill today, I asked if someone could look into it, and I got a phone call an hour later saying, your tree got cut down August 29th. My tree is still standing in my yard. I was looking out my window. And they said, oh no, it's been closed. I can reopen it. So what tree got cut down, and what other trees did they say they cut down that they didn't cut down?
Well, we have a number of them on the list, so I don't know. We don't really have them numbered per se, so we'd have to look and see what one he's referring to. Is he being the superintendent or the
I got a
DPW,
call back
or?
from someone in the office saying that
Okay.
your case has been closed. They said they cut it down on the 29th of August.
Well, we would have to put that back in the
So-
system and see what tree was cut down.
Yeah, because my tree's still there, and one of the branches already fell and hit my neighbor's truck, and I'm just afraid that once winter comes, if there's a kid out there and a branch falls, you know what I mean, some kid could get hurt. So it'd be nice to get it cut down.
You know, one of the things that we ought to consider with the number of trees that we're dealing with, because having our crew go out, it's a challenge to get that many trees cut down in a period of time that we don't have incidents, is maybe contracting and having it done in a more expeditious manner. I mean, if you saw back, a couple weeks ago, was it Miller Tree or Miller? Can't remember
Miller went down Highway 8, but they only had 3 guys, and they got all the trees cut down in one afternoon, so I don't know why it takes us so long to cut a
Well,
tree
they
down.
do it all the time, for one thing.
Well, there's only 3 guys cutting there, and
Well,
most
I
of the
don't wanna-
time.
yeah, but that aside, I mean, that could be one area just to get after the list that we do have, because it's a pretty good-sized list. So,
But we'll take a look at it and see.
yeah, we need to get you
We'll
back
get
in
it,
the
we'll get it
system.
back in the system, and we'll figure out which tree got cut
Yeah,
down and marked.
they said they were putting it back in the system. I just,
Yeah.
hopefully that they don't say, well,
Yeah.
we cut it down and then it still sits there during the winter time.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else wish to address the council?
Bill Asen, 507 Second Avenue. Does the council have any problem with a person cutting a tree on a boulevard down on their own property? If they think it should come down?
if it's on their
If it's on the
property.
boulevard?
We would not prefer to have a citizen do that, because if something happens, with
Well, if
liability, if we allow you to do that, then the liability might come back to
Well,
us.
if there's a professional person that does it.
If they have insurance, if it's a professional person and they have insurance.
Like
then
Miller,
no
I
problem.
was thinking of, I'm having him do some work for me on my property.
Yeah.
But that, there's a tree on 208 Main, it's okay yet, but by next year it probably should come down.
Yeah.
And
What do
and
we
if he
have
would
in-
take it down, would there be a
We've
problem?
allowed contractors, because they're bonded, they're insured.
Right.
They have the means to handle it.
What's the process with our tree ordinance if they wanted to handle it, don't they have to come in and apply?
What we would want to do now is when you say it's almost dead or going to be dead.
It's okay
we would
now,
just
it's
verify.
dying, the top is dead.
Yeah,
You know,
usually
it's a
when the
maple.
top is dead, it's
Yeah,
pretty
and
much
it's
dead.
gonna be totally gone in another year or so, but before the branches start falling off of it or something. If it would be all right,
We'll
I
usually,
I might have Miller come back next year to do some pruning on my trees, and if I do have them, if it's all right, I'll have him take that tree out.
Yeah, we usually mark down, if we see a tree that has that much gone, it's down for taking down at some point, getting it down on it.
Right, but if somebody wanted to do it or have somebody do it,
as long as
That's-
they had
That kind of thing
insurance.
is covered with our tree ordinance, isn't it? Isn't that part of?
Right, they come in and they let us know, like you would just
Yeah.
say, hey, I'm letting you know, so then we have that on file that he made the request, and we said it's okay, we can do it.
Right, but you have to, there's a permit to actually fill out.
I don't think, well, it does mention permitting, which is basically your standard right-of-way type permit.
Right.
I don't think we got to the point where we had anybody ask for a permit yet, so, I mean, it's pretty basic.
It sounds like Mr. Asler might be asking for a permit next year.
We could have you fill out a permit, which is pretty
Well,
simple.
I'm not gonna do it this year, but by next year, I'll see what it looks like, and if it looks like it's going pretty fast. These maples don't go real fast, but it is going, as a lot of them are. I think you do have a long list.
We have a lot.
Quite a few in our area alone.
Yeah, and it's hard to get the time to get out and get
Okay.
them all.
Okay, I just wanted to ask in case. Okay, sure.
Thank you. Does anyone else from the audience wish to address the council?
Jean Bradford, 2465 Travis Farm Road. Again, we're spending almost $500,000 on the manifest. I would like to see us try to not be so extravagant with some of these purchases. You know, when I've been to meetings, like, you know, we buy pieces of equipment worth $141,000. It doesn't work sufficiently. We start with a safe walk to school at $30,000. The next thing it's up to $300,000. The payroll again is increased $2,000 from the last manifest. And maybe this $63,000 could be used to pay down some of our debts. Is that a consideration?
What we end up doing with the money once we have it, everything will be considered. Everything would be on the table for consideration.
Well, is there any, like, you know, the lights and the main street, we owe eight more years of payment on that. I see here with the electricity again, we're spending $125,000 to purchase electricity. Why has that increased so?
Because the flow of the hydro is not, it's the river flow. It's how much can we generate. And if we don't have the water, then we have to purchase more. Right now, this time of year, the river usually isn't flowing as well as it is in the spring or early summer.
But the hydro plant is working 100% efficiency?
No, it's not 100% efficiency, but we've made improvements. It's not running 100% either, because if there's not enough water. Joe, what are we running? Probably one unit right now?
Unit number 1 is running with only 3 runners running. We're producing about 1.4 to 1.6 megawatts at this present time, and the city requires about 4.5 to 5 megawatts right now to operate. So what you're seeing in the purchase cost is a difference in what Jeremy was trying to explain to you, that when we increase our generation, we don't have to buy as much power off the grid, the national grid. And obviously when we don't produce as much, and we have to purchase more, and that's why the costs go up. There's really no way to control that. There's nothing that we can do about that.
That cost, though, part of that is passed on through to the customers with
Yeah.
it's called the PCAC on your bill, the power cost adjustment. That goes up and down every month, depending on how much we have to buy.
But now through the winter, since we'll have less water, we'll be paying higher utility bills.
It'll depend on how much water is in the river.
Okay. Well, I just, you know, as a tax-paying citizen, like when this money is just thrown around, or these figures, like the 63,000, it would be nice to pay it down versus spending more. Personally, I think the city of Norway should not own any property. You know, they don't pay taxes on it.
Okay.
And like
We've
this
got some for sale if you want to buy it.
Thank you. Okay, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else from the public wish to address the council? Okay, Lee.
No comments.
Dr. Hayes?
I had some, but no comments.
Chris?
Back on the boulevard trees, Ray, can we get a list of how many we have to cut down, maybe getting some quotes
Yeah,
on contractors, or
I'm
seeing
gonna-
how our
I'll do
guys
that.
can be able to handle this?
sure.
And then what's the status on the compost site? Is that,
We're gonna run the compost site at its location through, up until the start of deer season. Then we're gonna need to shut it down, basically in two parts. The one is to clean it up, but the other is we're going to work on completing the work out by the golf course. And then first thing in the spring, we'll open that up, and that'll be the new location
so we'll be able to use the existing location for
Until-
compost till,
until deer season. That would be firearm, November 15th.
When we do close it down, we're gonna close the gate?
Yeah.
To make sure nobody goes back there?
Yeah, and actually, we have two gates that we're gonna, one is the main gate off the road, but during the day, that gate might be open with our own use. So, I haven't talked to Joe about finalizing plans, but we should get another gate put down across the road, because I think that's gonna be a problem.
on that path that we had put in from Highway 8 down the wastewater,
Yep.
Can we spray that with some weed
Yeah.
killer or something? It's been pretty,
I saw that. We're gonna try and get on that and clean that up.
that's all I have.
Mark?
Yeah, I had a concern on that path too. I just think we wasted a lot, well, not a lot of money, but a little bit of money there. I was sure hoping that the compost site, that was on my list too. I was hoping that it was gonna get moved on the highway down to the property that I talked to with Ray. I know some people didn't want it there, but it would have been I thought a pretty good fit. You wouldn't be ruining a piece of property that would have been able to be marketed at some point in time.
Did the planning commission look at the site that Mark had suggested?
They did. They looked at all of the different sites that we put out, and I couldn't get any consensus really on, the only one I had even close to a consensus was the area by the golf course, by the nursery. They mostly had negative comments, on some of those sites, and so it was really hard to get any kind of movement on any other site.
With the compost site, is the township going to be contributing? Because if it's gonna be a joint compost site?
Yeah, they're gonna be on board, they're gonna contribute. I think, one of the things we have to do with them is, make sure that, like I said, Joe and I we haven't had a chance to really sit down and put together the whole construction plan, for that site, and with that, we need to get a good set of costs that they're going to, participate in, and so I have to get that to them, but I think that, we should be okay with their participation.
So I know they were for participating, but they had, their board had some serious concerns about the costs.
Yeah, I think it's because it went around to different locations that they got a little antsy about what this was going to mean to them financially. I think initially a couple of the sites, we were going to use the same site, the existing site, and it wasn't really going to cost that much. So it was a pretty easy discussion. When we start talking about a site like out by the nursery, it's going to take a little more work, and they're willing to put some money into it. The thing is that they want to see what those costs are ahead of time. Same as what you guys would. So I think that, it's just a matter of us. We got to finalize that here shortly and get that to them.
I just thought that the site, I don't know if it was any council members that, if everybody really knew the site that I was thinking that it should go on, was on the east side of town, like on the Norway Township, Norway city border. There's a pit down there where the city of Norway was taking iron ore out of. It wouldn't have needed to be fenced in. We had a gate there. We would have had to get some sort of access coming off the highway. It was kind of hid from the highway, and it was a piece of property that wasn't going to be able to be used for anything else. And, I just thought that if the council wanted to do that, we should have overrode the planning commission if we had to, because it was closer to Norway Township, and it was a piece of property that wouldn't have been able to be marketable, and it was an easy fix. Couple of the other things that I have on my list is the street sweeper was on US 2. Do we get reimbursed for that?
Yes.
We do? Okay. I was hoping to get Jay's office working on the rummage sale sign issue that we had problems with last year. People putting arrows saying there was rummage sales down there, and so we could get something in there to allow that if that's what the council wanted.
It sounded like the council was for at least having some kind of special rule for rummage sale weekend.
You know, one of the things that I want to, we have a number of issues that need to be brought up this fall with the planning commission.
Okay.
Some things that the township noticed. There's some things that I've noticed. You know, every year we come up with something that from an administrative standpoint. The sign ordinance issue is something that has popped up simply because in our ordinance right now it says none, which means none. You know, like we've allowed just by, you know, because we've you know, like the for sale signs, the real estate people, you know, we've allowed them on the boulevard because we feel like, you know, we want to help, you know, people see when a house is for sale. I think we have to relook at that as to what other signs, you know, actually have something in there so that the staff knows and the police know what's acceptable and what's not. Because to them, they're confusing. They like black and white. They want to see the ordinance and they want to say yes, no. And if you have yes, then what part of that yes do you allow? They don't like this, well, we'll allow this, but we don't allow that. And I think that's where the rummage sale signs got tied into it. One thing I will say though is that, and I've seen this, you know, over the past year, you know, we have allowed, you know, this stuff to kind of go on, kind of, but when it gets out to the highway, we notice that it takes a while for it to go. You know, so if someone has something on the weekend, it might be 3 weeks and it's still out there. You know, if we allow it, that's one thing we need to impress is have it, do it, get it out of there.
I think though for rummage sale weekend, that we should do something on our own, independent of the township, independent of the planning commission. Have Jay's office, like Mark said, come up with something to exempt rummage sale signs from like that Friday to Sunday. You put them on Thursday, you're gonna take them down. If you leave them up to Sunday, you're gonna have problems. But like say Friday through Sunday.
And we can do that off the special events type of situation too. What I want to do is I just want to make sure that our staff knows what those guidelines are. And whether it's the ordinance for all year long or the special events, this is what we're going to do during this time.
Yeah, I just think, I think with that one, not waiting for planning commission to work on it, I think we should just get it done.
Yeah, I think it's important to a lot of people, and if we can do something there, we need to get working on it so when it comes around, we're ready.
Yeah, and
I wasn't necessarily going to just wait on planning commission, but since, you know, we have until May to get it finalized, I wasn't really concentrating on it right now. It's probably something over the winter we'll have finalized. And that gives the planning commission time to work on their side of the ordinance anyway, because I plan on have them working at a couple things anyway.
I mean, on that compost site, is that something we can still talk about, that other site, or does anybody on the council know what I was talking about over there? Or is that kind of a dead issue? Can we override the planning commission if everybody on the council thinks that it's a better site? There's a lot less prep work and a lot less money to spend over there.
I think if we override it though, we're not gonna have township joining us in. And I think that was part of being able to share this cost. I don't have a problem.
Well, some of it though, I mean, you're not gonna have near the costs over there. It's just basically getting a DOT and getting an access in. It's all hard bottom. So I mean, the road is all on hard material, and you're storing this stuff on a piece of property that isn't any good for anything else. And I think it's foolish to mess up a good piece of property by the golf course. I do think that would be a site on the site list, but I do not think it's the best site.
That's accessed right off the highway, right?
Yes, it is, but
That's-
it's
well, I'm
all hidden.
Well, and I took a look at it after you had talked to me about it. And as a site, I think it's a better site. Just because, like you said, it's an old pit, it's not going to be used. The concerns I have, and it's something we can talk about, but the concerns I had was you're accessing it right off the highway, and so you're gonna have a lot of slower traffic slowing down. I'm a little concerned for accidents there. The other concern I had was with it being right on the highway, you can't necessarily burn because the smoke comes back over the highway. You could have issues with that. Those are my two concerns, that as a site, it's a better site. It's just the access and I'm still thinking you're gonna end up double handling. Where the golf course, you can burn there.
Burning, I don't even really think we'd have to burn, and even if we could utilize that site with a little bit of prep work that it would take, we could probably utilize that site for probably 10 years, 8 to 10 years, I'm thinking, and not have any problems at all.
I think one thing we're forgetting on that site, and it'd probably be okay, but I'm waiting for the county mine inspector's report to come in. He's done all of Iron Mountain area already, and basically that was half. Now I want to see him check all these other holes we got out here, and there's a nasty one out where you're talking out there as to who owns it and what's the actual liability there, because that's a nasty pit right there. And when is this mine inspector gonna finish doing this part of the county? Do you have any idea, Ray?
No, I haven't.
Because that was a couple months ago, he came out with his report on all the dangerous places up in Iron Mountain area. He said he was gonna do the other part of the county, but I haven't seen anything out on it yet. But I mean, we've got a lot of issues up on the hill that may be an issue, maybe they're not, but I'd just as soon wait for his report, make sure we got all bases covered.
If we're gonna keep that site running through deer season, we still have some time to talk about it.
Yeah, two deer season. We're closing it down before deer season starts.
Well, just have people stay and just skip vacation on deer season and come in.
What's so special about deer season?
Yeah. But at least till then, but we can still have the conversation on it, because we're
Yeah,
not gonna.
we can hash it out.
The other thing, I see how the county did over by Red Line, what Lee was talking about the other day, or 2 weeks ago, and I think it's gonna work out good, how they prepped it over there, and I'd like to put a thanks out for that. And I think, like Lee was saying, some of the other spots, I think that would work in the other spots, how they put that rock down with to slow the water down, and I think it would work up by the TV tower and Valley View. The other thing, I only got one other thing. I know Joe's secretary quit. I would like to see us rehash over hiring that position. I think there's a lot of duplicate job titles there, and I would like to see us hash over that. I don't know what that secretary was making there, Mary. I'm guessing probably 12 to 15,000. 14
per hour.
What is that, how many hours? Just a rough guess. What were we spending annually?
30 hours a week, 52 weeks a year.
Because I know the cops were 30 hours, and they were getting $15 an hour, and that was about 25,000, right, Mary? 25, 28?
Yeah, it's gonna be right now.
It's right at 23, 24.
I mean, we've ran a couple years out there when Joe took care of the paperwork, and it didn't seem like we were having much of a problem.
We had that person in here, though.
We had a person in here.
Yeah, we had the extra person in the office here, and they were responsible for doing some of the same type of paperwork. But we had them
About
sitting up here
22,000.
rather than sitting down there.
And we have another hire that we hired in here to replace Paula part-time, right?
Yes, but we had that extra person plus Paula in here in this office, and when she left, we decided to take that person physically and put them down in the other office. So, I mean, they were doing the same reporting features, just they were sitting in a different location, that's all. So it was really matter just location and seating. So,
I guess I would still like to see us rethink that and do what we were doing before, or incorporating it into the utility director position. That's all I have.
Okay, well, I got a couple things. The first one is US 2, when they went through and redid it, some of those manholes got a pretty good hit in them right now. You got a pretty good drop off. Have we talked to MDOT? Are they gonna be building them up, or what's going on with that? Because there's a few now that are already, when you hit them, you know you hit them.
Are they done?
Do you want to take it, or you want me to?
No, you were in the conversation, so you go ahead.
They're not doing anything with them. They view those as our manholes, and it's our responsibility. One thing we have to go out and actually take a look at them, because one comment that was made was, the first thing they said is, why don't we just pave over them so that we don't have a bump? And it's like, okay, what happens when we have to remove the pavement in order to look at them? So that wasn't really acceptable. And then the second was that they think that it's a recessed cover as opposed to the actual rim being low. I can't verify that, and Joe, we talked about that late today, so we got to go out on the road and take a look at those and see if that's actually a recessed cover. If that's a recessed cover, that's something we could possibly handle ourselves. I'm a little miffed at the whole notion that they come through and they changed the elevations and redid the road, and now all of a sudden those are our issues. They should have dealt with them when they went through. So that's something that I have on my plate to call somebody to find out. The other is on the catch basin side, they actually did say that they were going to pave over them. And, because they don't catch water anyways, I guess is the point, so.
So where's the water that they don't catch now gonna end up going?
I'd have to see where each individual one is located and find out where. Again, I gotta make a phone call on that, because that just doesn't seem right.
No.
So,
It looks like the ones on US 2 in front of Dairy Queen, when you ride by, still have like a plastic when they were grinding
I can imagine
under
that,
the lid, so I mean,
I can imagine that those are the ones that are targeted to have just asphalt right over them. So I gotta call somebody other than the person we talked to today and find out where this is coming from, because it's just not reasonable. So.
The other thing I had was, we're gonna be starting to crush our gravel pretty soon. Have we started that yet?
Next week, they're supposed to be moving the crusher in.
Okay, what quality of gravel are we getting? Are we gonna be able to use it if we have to do shouldering work, or
Yes, you'll be
some
able
of
to use
our,
it.
some of our rougher, our dirt road areas?
It'll be of a good quality gravel. It's gonna be a little dirtier than normal, because we want more base in it in order to hold the stone in. But it'll be a modified 23A or a 22, right in that ballpark.
Okay.
Yeah, they usually call it like a 22A modified.
Okay. That's all I have. Joe, anything you'd like to add?
I have no comment.
Mary? Tricia? Larry, anything you'd like to add? I'd just like to thank Larry. Jay wasn't able to be here this evening, and Larry is filling in for Jay.
I always enjoy it.
Mr. Anderson?
I have nothing tonight.
Okay, with that, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Motion made by Lee, supported by Chris. Roll call.
Mr. Babalani?
yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.